From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
The major story is that the country of India looks to be planning, at least, on implementing some form of population control via something that China implemented a while ago, attempting to reduce the number of children individual families have. And they're doing this with incentives, interestingly enough. It feels almost like some kind of new credit card system where you're going to get points for only having 2 kids or for getting one of your partners sterilized at some point. It sounds like very strange stuff, but it's policies that are being put forth to solve a perceived problem, right? So let's talk about it. I'm going to be reading from Insider and India.com. I would highly recommend the India.com article. It has a pretty great set of 2 lists. One of them is what you need to know about the population policy that's being proposed, as well as the incentives and subsidies that are being offered for voluntary sterilization.
Ooh, boy.
Sounds weird to even say, right?
Sure does. At least it's not involuntary sterilization. At least it's not like state-mandated sterilization. It's
correct.
Something. Yeah.
Completely correct. Now, these policies are being put forth in 2 of the states within India, Uttar Pradesh, as well as Assam, which is in northeastern India. Now, these haven't been adopted necessarily, if that makes sense. These are proposals. At least from my understanding, these are proposals, and they want them to run from now until 2030. That's the concept here. These proposals were put forth on July 11th, which is World Population Day. Yay, population. Let's control it. There are some issues here. The experts at the UN and UNICEF estimate that around 25 million children are born every year in India. That accounts for 1/5 of the world's annual births, according to Insider. And essentially, India in these 2 particular states are attempting just to reduce the number of people entering into the economic system, the system of, the things we've talked about on this show before. For each person, there comes certain costs for a state or a country, a local municipality, as well as for the family itself that has the new family member in there. Weird to conceptualize. But let's talk about some of the things that they want to implement. First, they want to increase the accessibility of contraceptive measures, things that would be offered in the family planning program that exists there in several states. And they also want to provide a safe avenue for anyone seeking to get an abortion. So, depending on where you land politically, that's such a politicized topic, at least here in the United States, and I would say the world over, giving the option for a person who wants to have an abortion to get an abortion is probably a good thing. They're also looking to do a little bit of propaganda, maybe, I would say. They're setting up these things called health clubs in schools, and the whole point there is to teach kids about how to keep the population stable and how to reach stabilization through some of these policies. There's other stuff here that we can get into. It's a draft of a bill right now, and the public is going to be giving suggestions until, guess what? The day that we record this episode. So I guess it's too late, unfortunately. Not really giving anyone awareness out there in India, just letting you know that this is happening.
So not to derail us, but just to interject very briefly, this is, as you can imagine, very controversial in some places. There have been political analysts who find that it is Islamophobic. They are worried that it is targeting a growing Muslim population. And also, to the point about incentives, the opt-in, opt-out organ donation discount for driver's license that we always talk about, that is a very milquetoast example of how incentives can push you toward a mandate. Just like in Gattaca, remember, it wasn't illegal to have a kid who wasn't genetically modified. The insurance was just so expensive that their lives would be terrible if they were born. So how far do these incentives go, Matt, in this proposed bill?
Well, they go pretty far. I'm going to read directly from India.com. The title is Yogi Adityanath unveils new population policy for UP, says every community taken care of. Okay, so according to this article, parents who limit their family to 2 children, very similar to the policies in China, the 2-child policy that have recently been changed, altered to 3, I believe. I think that's correct in China. They will essentially be able to get more government money for several things. Housing, they call them housing schemes, as well as contributions from their employers. So personal contributions to the individual or the family from the employer. Also, promotions within wherever they're working, if they're working for the government or with the government. There are also stuff in there about reducing what you have to pay for water, electricity, house taxes, home loans, and other stuff that you would need to run a house that contains, just 2 children rather than more than 2 children. And one of the most, potentially damaging things within this proposal for a family that ends up having more than 2 children is this last one that they list on India.com. Children of a family of 2 would have free education up to graduation level, scholarship for higher studies in the cases of a female child here, according to India.com, and preference to the single child in government jobs, and other benefits that couples with a single child will receive. So there are even benefits for reducing from 2 to 1.
Yeah, there was an earlier bill in 2019. The 2020 bill is a little bit different because the 2019 bill that was proposed, Matt, you just described what are called the carrots, right? The incentives, the rewards, the goodies. The 2019 bill included what would be known as the stick, the penalties for couples that did not adhere to the proposed 2-child policy. You wouldn't be able to run for office. You wouldn't be able to get certain government jobs or get promoted or get certain government benefits. Like, they were coming down hard on people, and incentives, including the one-time cash incentive, may be one of their best chances of enacting this policy, regardless of how you feel about it, because the family and the children are such a support network for people. And if you look at the ongoing problem of female infanticide in India, then you'll see why they have those sexual distinctions, right? For a female child, they say, you get these certain benefits because due to poverty and the dowry system and multiple other factors, there are families that have a higher than average chance of learning the sex of a child and then aborting it if it is biologically female.
Man,
wow.
So they're fighting against a history spanning centuries.
Yep. So, does it sound like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ben, but it sounds to me like maybe you're almost saying that there's a little bit of humanitarianism in this policy. Like, it could be much more draconian, but instead it's like, okay, we know we have a population problem. We know we have these historical issues with the way, female children are treated. we have to do something about it, but I think maybe they could have gone farther. They could have, and you know, to their credit, I mean, it is a lot creepy, obviously, and not something we think about here in the States. But I don't know. What are your thoughts there, Ben?
Well, the question here is also, yeah, just in terms of human interest, how would you feel if you, for anybody not living in India, how would you feel if your government told you there was a limit on the number of children you could have? What would your reaction be? And is there an official reasoning that would get you on board with it? So think of it this way: the average household size in India is 4.8. Though that doesn't mean necessarily that it's two parents and then 2.8 kids, but it does indicate that there, of course, there would be pushback. It's a dangerous kind of law to enact, even if it has noble intentions, and it can be a painful law to enact. The incentives are great, you know, to help people toward that move, but also consider the long tail ramifications of China's policy, the similar policy, right? The gender divide is crazy there right now, in terms of the male population being skewed because people wanted a male heir, right? This it's incredibly difficult to figure out an equitable way to do this, you know. But I think, I don't know, Matt, do we know the inspiration behind this?
There are a lot of people in India. It is currently, I believe, the second most populous country that exists outside of China. And in that one state, Uttar Pradesh, there are 240 million people. And India overall, at least according to UNICEF and the UN, it will overtake China as the world's most populous country by 2027. So you can see that, you know, they likely want to reduce those numbers if they can, or reduce the trajectory if they can a little bit. As we said, there are issues, real issues when, you know, you increase a population, and if that is outpacing your ability as a country, as on a state level, on a local level, to feed everybody, to get everybody jobs, to do everything that you know, each individual family will need. I don't know, it's really messed up though, just thinking of having to do this. Like, I'm imagining the meetings where people are saying, well, we've got to find a solution. What does our solution look like? And how do we do this without being evil? And I guess this is what you come up with. Incentives to only have 2 children or fewer, and bad things that happen if you don't do that.
Yeah, one activist, Kavitha Krishan, said every time there's population control, it's led to violence against women's bodies. Right? There's a huge opportunity for corruption, for violence, and one point to establish the issue here, and one of the reasons I imagine many people living in the country are concerned about this, is that femicide became such an acknowledged problem that back in 1994, the country of India banned what's called prenatal sex determination. You know how if you're expecting a child, you can go to your doctor and they can, you know, do some doctor magic, and then they'll be able to tell you, you know, what they believe the gender is. And, you know, some people want to be surprised. Some people would rather know in advance. That doesn't happen in India.
It's crazy. Put yourself in the position of somebody who have to think about that. If you've had your second child, you either have to convince your partner to become sterilized, get sterilized yourself, or risk real financial problems, perhaps, or have to get an abortion at some point if you do get pregnant again. The choices you would be faced with, no matter what, if you end up having 2 children, right immediately after that, none of them look that great on paper. So, yeah, we'd love to know what you think, and especially if you live in India, or if you're watching this happen, if you lived in China under the 2-child policy, if you've just got any insight, we'd love to hear from you.